I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
And so I went to Uganda, and she took me to the most incredible places. I mean, she would take me out to the best clubs in Kampala. And I was not only the only white person at these clubs, but I was the only non-Ugandan person at these clubs, right? And they were very local and they were amazing. And this was really part of my introduction to like Afro beats, and all the incredible music on the continent, which inspired my subsequent trips to West Africa. And I'm just like shazamming this music. It was just amazing, right? But I felt such an incredible, immersive experience there because really I felt like I had such a privilege of being able to come in as a total outsider, be connected with someone that lives there and is from there, and then be, able to go out and hang out with entirely local people. And for me, that is just one of the most incredibly magical things about travel.
I wholeheartedly agree. Nothing beats having a local show you around to really get you under the skin of a place. That is Matt Bowles. He's our guest today. Matt's been nomadic for over 10 years. And today you'll hear his advice on how to create a lifestyle that allows for freedom and flexibility. Matt's also an expert on turnkey real estate investing, so you'll learn how that might be a viable option for you if you want to work remotely or become a digital nomad or just travel long term or just have more flexibility to travel in general. We discuss minimalism, dating on the road, so much more. It's all happening right now in this episode. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here. Grab your favorite beverage. Relax a little. Welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. Our guest today, Matt Bowles, has certainly found the way to fill his life with travel. Matt is the host of the Maverick Show podcast. You can learn more about that at themaverickshow.com. Over there, he tries to find some of the most fascinating people on the planet, draw out their stories, unpack the skills, tactics, and strategies they use to build their remote businesses and design their lifestyles. So you might be interested in listening to that, and I'll link up to that in the show notes. We had a fun conversation today, and if you listen closely, you may just catch what I think is the number one hidden perk of nomad life. Let's see if you catch it. I will, on the back end, share what it is with you and a little story that goes along with that and a quote to leave you on your day. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, you know how much it costs? Nothing. It's free. So what are you waiting for? ZeroToTravel.com/newsletter. I send it out once a week. You get some personal stories, travel tips, advice, all the good stuff, but stuff that you don't get on the podcast. So you can sign up over there for that. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Matt, and I will see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Stretch out.
I love to see the behind the scenes in the Zero to Travel studio, man. I'm loving it.
Do you stretch out in the morning?
I try to do something in the morning and then try to do a workout in usually more the afternoon time.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, you might recognize this voice, perhaps, if you've been a long-time listener to the show. It's been a little while, but we're doing a good old-fashioned, what we call a show swap here. So if you want to hear the tables turn and hear me on his show, you can go check that out, the Maverick Show. And we have him here on my show to talk about 10 years as a nomad and a whole bunch of other stuff. Matt Bowles, welcome back to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
Jason, so good to be here, brother. Always a pleasure to be on Zero to Travel, one of my favorite podcasts.
We have to find out where you are today. I mean, I know that's a pretty standard question for a travel podcast, but at the same time, when you're talking to nomads, you never know. So whereabouts are you?
You know, I'm actually in the United States today.
Whoa.
I am in Asheville, North Carolina, visiting my family and hanging out for a little bit.
Yeah, okay. How's it? How long have you been back to your home country? We'll tell everybody. U.S. is your home country.
So I was in December, I was in Brazil. And then what I did is I came back for Christmas. So my general thing as I kind of travel around the world for most of the year. I'm an itinerant nomad. I've had no permanent base for 10 years now, but I try to spend some quality time with the family every year. And I usually try to do that starting around Christmas time. So I flew back from Brazil to my sister's place for Christmas, and then I came to hang out with my parents in Asheville. We've been going to the local basketball games here. My parents are big hoops fans, and so we've been following the season and all that kind of stuff. So just sort of hanging out with them, and then I started hopping around, visiting some friends, going to some conferences, that sort of stuff. So I have been in the United States for a few months now.
I mean, you get to go back to Asheville, North Carolina, which is a cool... I mean, it's not like you're going back to Houston or something. No offense, Houstonites. I'm sorry if you're listening. Just not necessarily my favorite. Well, no, I've met a lot of nice people there, but so congested. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But no, that's not a terrible place to come back to. But when you come back nowadays, having traveled so much, what is the vibe like for you? Is there reverse culture shock, or are you just kind of used to coming back to the scenario? I mean, imagine the relationship to the home country changes over time. Is it just more of like putting an old comfortable old pair of jeans back on, or what's it like for you coming back home now?
You know, so when I was growing up in the United States, I actually lived in a number of different cities, even as a kid. So I've never actually lived in any one place for more than 7 years, my entire life, even as a kid. And so that, I think, got me into this, maybe nomad mindset a little bit. And now I'm traveling around the world and all of this kind of stuff. And since I've been doing it for 10 years, and those 10 years have probably been fairly evenly divided across the continents, probably about 2.5 years in Africa, about 2.5 years in Asia, 2.5 years in Europe, 2.5 years in South America, just kind of moving around. I feel like at this point, I can go into those different cultures, including the United States, and really not have it have like a jarring impact, because I've spent a sufficient amount of time not only in those different places, but also moving between those different places and transitioning in and out of them.
Were you a bit angry with your parents that you were moving around so much when you were a kid? Did you like that, or were you indifferent, just or kind of resigned to it?
Well, when you're a kid, you don't have a choice, and you also don't know anything different. And so certainly there is the initial emotional concern. I'm leaving my friends. I'm no longer going to be at this school. I now have to go somewhere where I don't know anyone and start over and make new friends, and I'll miss my old friends. And so that part is always hard. But then what happens is you get to the new place, you realize you can make new friends and you can get by in this other place. And oh, by the way, this other place has new, cool, different stuff that wasn't in the old place. And so now you can develop new interests or new experiences. And I think that actually ultimately, while I didn't realize it at the time, likely gave me the confidence that I could go to a new place that I wasn't familiar with, and I could interact with new people that I didn't know, and I could make friends and I could acclimate. So I actually think it built up a really nice foundation for the life that I lead now.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you just said, if you just bleep out the word school, you could have just been describing the nomad life, really. But also, like, all of that is challenging too. Like, I remember I was nomadic for over 10 years, and I would say around the 10-year mark, maybe a little bit before, it was when I started thinking about, oh, maybe I should live in one place for a little while. Maybe I should have that experience, because you start, whether it's a grass is greener on the other side thing or whatever, your desires change, your needs change. And a lot of nomads I've talked to, they just desire that sort of stable community after a period of time. But nowadays you can get that in a lot of places, with the nomad communities and everything like that. And people are traveling around and doing it together. So it's a lot different than back in my day. But does any of that stuff come up? Like, how do you determine, do you reassess at a certain period of time? Like, okay, do I still want to keep living this life? Do you have like a process for that? Or is it more just kind of organically living life and see where it takes you kind of thing?
I'd say it's more organically and based on priorities that I may have. So I don't think of it as like, oh, an itinerant lifestyle where I live in a different place every month is the top priority for the sake of that being the top priority. But rather it's, where would I like to spend time? With whom would I like to spend that time? What places would I like to see, either new or places I've been already? So for example, here, I told you I've been hanging out with my parents for a couple months. We've been going to the basketball games. Like, that's important quality time. And I can stay and hang out with my parents for a month or two or more every year. And not everybody has that opportunity. So for me, that's part of the value of location independence. I can make family-centered decisions. I can also make relationship-centered decisions. So I'm single at the moment, but I've certainly been in relationships, right? I once got into a relationship with a woman who was living in Kuala Lumpur, that's where she's from, in Malaysia, and she wasn't fully remote and wasn't able to just pick up and travel the world. And so I moved to Malaysia, moved in with her. We had our, relationship in Malaysia. And then when we broke up, I left. But I had the opportunity to do that, right? And so I think location independence allows you the choices. If you want to move around at a faster pace and see a lot of different places and do that, you can. If you want to slow down, stay in a place for a while, be with particular people that are in a particular place for a while, you can do that. And so I feel like my choices in terms of how fast to travel, where to spend my time, and with whom to spend it vary over time, but it's really the location independence that gives me the freedom to continue adjusting and making those choices.
Are the people at this point dictating where you go more than the places? What's the balance like there?
I would say it's probably a combination. So a lot of my community that I have in terms of my very good friends, a lot of them are travelers or people that are moving around. And I do want to see those people multiple times a year. And so I will intentionally choose travel locations that cross paths with them. At the same time, I'm also very interested in having local experiences in different places and going to particular spots in the world that I just want to spend time in those places and hang out with the local people there and do the local stuff that's going on there. And that's not related to travel friends. That's just related to a place. So I would say that I try to balance it. When you do this long term, there's really a number of, I think, life pillars, if you will, that you need to pay attention to. And a lot of times, if you let them get depleted, that can really throw off the lifestyle. So for example, like your social life, right? And not becoming lonely through this travel and not, becoming unhealthy because you're not exercising or whatever, and things like that. And so I think there's a lot of those kind of things. And so the social piece of it and the community piece of it is a core pillar that we all need as humans. And I think as you're in an itinerant lifestyle, there are different things to be attentive to make sure that you have that in your life. So for me, I'd say at this point, it's a combination.
Yeah. The local experience you were describing is obviously, I think that's a big perk of the slow travel and being able to, let's say, live in a community, even if that's just for a month. You have a different mindset if you're set up in a place for a period of time than if you're just passing through. Well, maybe you have a different mindset all the time. Maybe not. I don't know about the mindset, but you are sort of put into the rhythm of the day-to-day life there. And you kind of become, a temporary part of this community as much as you allow yourself. You can always find the expat bubble and things like that. But yeah, you mentioned kind of having those local experiences. What was the last one that was really memorable for you, where you felt like, oh man, like I'm really a part of this like I feel like I'm really a part of this local scene, like I'm getting under the surface of this place. This is really cool.
So I spent, over the last year and a half or so, I probably spent about 7 consecutive months on the continent of Africa, which is one of my favorite continents. I never like to pick a favorite because I love them all in different ways, obviously, as you know. But Africa is just so special, man. And I went to a number of places where I really do try to get a local immersive experience, because that's really so much of what makes the continent amazing. Don't just go on a safari tour or something like that and be with the tourists, but really kind of get into the local scene. So, for example, I went in Cape Town, which is a place that is very easy to stay entirely in the tourist area if you want. But if you can make local connections and you can go out, for example, I went to the Sunday Rands party in Khayelitsha Township in Cape Town. And I went there with folks that are from the area, right? And when you do that and you go to a much more local event that has majority local folks, it's really quite a different type of immersive experience, right? And then similarly, I went to in Ghana, in Accra, they have they call the month of December, they call it Deti December, is sort of the slang for it, and it's just this incredible series of music festivals and parties and events, and some of it are folks coming from outside of Ghana, like the African diaspora coming to Ghana for this event, but at least half of it or so is also local people that are in Ghana. But I've also been to Ghana in times like in June or in July, right? And those times also where there's less tourists there even are just amazing. And you're just out at these local parties, like in Accra in Ghana. Regularly throughout the year, they have a Sunday party on Labadi Beach in Accra, and there's just thousands of people that come out. The DJs are lining the beach. I mean, these are some of the most incredible parties that I've ever been to, and I really feel like, I'm certainly, just one of the few people that's not from there, but I'm at this event. I'm welcome to this event, and I'm really participating in it. The first time maybe that I really felt that on the continent was in 2018. I went to Uganda, and I had a Ugandan friend that invited me because I was staying in Nairobi, Kenya for about a month, and she said, "You need to come to Kampala. If you're staying in Kenya and you're that close, just come to Kampala, stay at my place. I will show you around and I will take you out." And I said, "Done." And so I went to Uganda, and she took me to the most incredible places. I mean, she would take me out to the best clubs in Kampala. And I was not only the only white person at these clubs, but I was the only non-Ugandan person at these clubs, right? And they were very local and they were amazing. And this was really part of my introduction to like Afro beats, and all the incredible music on the continent, which inspired my subsequent trips to West Africa. And I'm just like shazamming this music. Like it was just amazing, right? But I felt such an incredible immersive experience there, because really I felt like I had such a privilege of being able to come in as a total outsider, be connected with someone that lives there and is from there, and then be, able to go out and hang out with entirely local people. And for me, that is just one of the most incredibly magical things about travel.
Yeah, I mean, when you get that local invite, like, don't even care where it is, just go. Somebody's like, "Oh, come visit, I'll show you around," and you're on another continent going to a whole new country. It's like, bam, you're gonna have, like, it doesn't matter if there's nothing to see there. I'm using air quotes from a tourist sites perspective or whatever. I mean, those are some of the most incredible experiences. That sounds epic. Well, you're a big music guy. You used to DJ and everything. Do you make music still, or you just enjoy it?
I just hang out with people that do that kind of stuff, man. I don't. I was a DJ, as you mentioned. So going into high school, I was still am a huge hip hop fan. And that really is what inspired me to get into DJing. And then I parlayed that into sort of a mobile DJ business that I was running by the end of high school and DJing proms at other high schools and that kind of stuff. And then I would come home from college and I would just DJ the prom and wedding circuit the whole summer. And so I had this, combination of the hip hop stuff that I was doing, but also this mobile DJ business that I was running and all that, which probably is my early entrepreneurial roots that set me on that track. But I officially hung that up and retired, and don't move around with any of that stuff. But I have a bunch of friends that are DJs. Actually, one of the things I did a few weeks ago is I went out to Chicago because I have some DJ friends out there that throw this hip hop party, and I was out for that and supporting them. And we sort of joke around because my buddy, when I was in college, he was in college with me. And I was a hip hop DJ. I had a show on the college radio station, and he was just a hip hop fanatic. And so he would just come to my show and help me carry my record crates at the time and this kind of stuff. And then now he, as a hobby, he's like a physician by day, he's like a partner in a medical practice, but he's a hip hop fanatic. And so he got all the stuff, and he's been DJing just as a hobby on the side for like years, and now he's really good. And so him and one of his buddies who actually owns a DJ company, they throw this hip hop party. And so now I go out and I carry their crates and hang out while they spin. So we have the tables turned, but it's still, we still throw the party and we all show up. So it's fun.
The turntables and the tables turned.
That's
all
it, man.
in one thing. There you go. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop. Now, back to the show. The idea of the lifestyle you're living, your show is the Maverick Show. And I'm wondering if the idea of being a maverick, what does that mean to you right now? Because I feel like, well, I don't know, that when I would think of unconventional lifestyles or this maverick kind of mentality, I would think of this sort of scene, right? Maybe that's because of the bubble I'm in, kind of like living this unconventional life and going for it and going for your dream lifestyle and everything like that. And that's now more accessible than ever. And a lot of people are doing it, at least maybe in our bubble. But I feel like, after, of course, we don't want to talk about the pandemic and all, but after that and the remote work explosion, I feel like it's become a lot more mainstream than it was before. So what does being a maverick mean to you right now?
That's an interesting question. I think it just means the same thing in principle, right? Which is that, and what it means in principle, that can evolve in terms of the specific application, and it's customizable to each person, right? Like that's one of the main things, is that there's not a prescriptive thing. There's not a thing that says, oh, this exactly what I'm doing is the ideal lifestyle and everyone else should do exactly what I'm doing. No, the idea is, how can you get the freedom, an increasing amount of freedom in your life to make choices that make the most sense for you? So as you know, on my show, I interview an incredibly diverse range of people, as I know you do as well, right? And so different people have different priorities, different needs, different preferences, different passions, different interests. And so they might structure their lifestyle in all these different ways. And so one of the things I try to do on the Maverick Show is interview people who have all these different backgrounds. So first of all, people coming from all over the world, right? I mean, people that are born and raised on the continent of Africa that are now full-time digital nomads, or born and raised in Asia that are now full-time digital nomads, or, coming from different places. Then there's people that are traveling the world as a family, and they're choosing to be full-time digital nomads with a 2-year-old, and how does that work? And how did you make that choice? And how do you do that? And, and stuff. And so I'll go deep into a lot of these different types of niches with folks. And so whoever you are and wherever you are in your journey and whatever your preferences are, you can create that, and there is a path to that. And so I think it really varies for every person, but the ethos is just that you have the ability to create the freedom and the lifestyle that works best for you. And that may change over time.
A big part of the freedom, as we're using that word, that one keeps coming up, of course, with a lot of this lifestyle stuff, is having the means to make it financially sustainable, right? To make your travels financially sustainable. And I want to dig into how you've been doing that and get some lessons around sort of the state of real estate and things like that. I'm just curious, coming across a lot of nomads over the years and being in the scene and you're traveling around, what are some of the weirdest ways you've heard about people earning a living online or like making their travel sustainable financially?
All kinds of stuff. I mean, the most simplest one that you've mentioned is just simply get a remote job, which, as we now know, post-pandemic, most jobs can be done remotely. And so that's a very common thing that doesn't involve, anything really extraordinary. You just negotiate a remote work location. And if you can work from home, then you can work from the beach in Thailand or a rooftop in Dubai or the beach in Rio or wherever you want to be working from, right? And then I think in terms of the entrepreneurship side, there were a lot of initial impressions that there's only a small category of businesses that can be built and run remotely, traditionally virtual businesses. One of the things that I've done with my business is I have built a fully remote business that is not in a traditionally virtual category, which is that I own a real estate brokerage. And we help people to buy cash flowing rental properties in US real estate markets from anywhere in the world because they're turnkey. So we built this business model where these are single family homes, sometimes 2 to 4 unit properties, and they are fully renovated or brand new, and they already have long-term tenants in place on a lease, and they already have a local property management company on the ground that's collecting the rent and handling the maintenance. So you don't need to be the landlord or the rehabber or live near the property, but you get to own the deeded real estate and get all the benefits of that. And you can do it from anywhere. You don't even need to come into the city to see the property or to close. Most of our clients buy their houses sight unseen. And so we founded this company back in 2007 as a fully remote real estate brokerage. So we have been doing that for 17 years now. And people have been asking me to speak about that because it's a non-traditionally virtual business model. And yet we built it with a virtual infrastructure. And I interview a lot of people that have similarly built businesses where you think, wait a minute, how could you possibly do that remotely? So I interviewed one of my very good friends, Jen McGee, runs a architectural design company. So she has like Fortune 500 clients, Barnes and Noble and Sharper Image, and these kind of clients that hire her to do architectural design. She designed the duty-free shops at JFK Airport in New York City, if people have been through those, and big time projects like that. And she travels the world full time with no base while she's doing these projects. And I'm like, wait, how do you do that? Right. And so there's a lot of these categories that people think, oh, that type of job couldn't be done remotely. That type of business couldn't be done remotely. But in fact, a lot of them actually can be if you sort of reverse engineer and start asking yourself the question, how could I potentially build a business like this and run it remotely? Instead of just, can I, yes or no, ask yourself, how can I? And then start working backwards through the challenges, through the obstacles. And a lot of times what you'll find is that a lot more businesses than you think can be run fully remotely while traveling the world.
I want to get some real estate advice because I think real estate is something that, anybody listening could be getting involved with or be interested in. It's not like you're saying, hey, I want to get advice on, how to sell, I don't know, pet supplies online. It's like real estate. A lot of people are interested in the idea of real estate and perhaps using real estate as one of the income streams or one of the main income streams, one of the small income streams to help fuel their travels. Before we get into all of that and some of the advice around that, and I want to make this advice current for everybody because obviously this stuff is changing all the time. We've got you here today. You're an expert on this turnkey real estate stuff, so I want to hone in on that. If you had to start from scratch today in another industry, what would you do? What would be your advice to somebody?
In terms of building a location-independent business?
You're just like, hey, you're out of real estate. You still have your contacts or whatever, but you can't be in real estate anymore, Matt. You got to start from scratch and do something else. And maybe there's some overarching principles you want to share here, but just from what you've learned by running a business around the world. But what kind of advice would you give somebody starting out where they're just starting from scratch?
Well, the first thing is to figure out what your transferable skills are that you've already developed. Okay. So if you've been working in a particular job or particular sector, or perhaps you just have a hobby that you're super passionate about on the side and you've built up all these skills that you haven't even monetized yet, but they're just skills, I would really audit those. So it's first is going to start with a self-audit. And what you're going to want to do is determine where the overlap is between stuff that you're good at and stuff that you love. Because those are two things that are going to be important for making it successful long-term. Because if you're good at something and you don't love it, you're going to burn out. You're going to run out of motivation. You're going to run out of momentum. So that's the first thing. And if you love something, but you also need to make sure that people will be willing to pay for it, right? So if you work at a job, presumably for a company, they're somehow selling something and you're helping them to, somehow sell it or produce it or whatever and work in that infrastructure. And so you've clearly developed some portion of the skills that are required. And there are freelance avenues, for example, for people with all different types of skills. So there are tons of businesses that need to hire freelancers that can do a particular thing. So if you're good at social media marketing or you're good at whatever you do, customer service, any number of range of things that you do now, you could take and package those services and sell them to a particular company. Hey, I am really great at this. So I have freelancers working for my business, right? Podcast editors. Are you good at editing podcasts? Well, you could pitch yourself to a bunch of podcasters and offer to edit their podcast I have friends that do that as a full-time business, right? So whatever it is that you know how to do, you can turn that into, first of all, a freelancing endeavor, right? So that's the first thing. Make sure that there is demand for it. Make sure that you can fulfill the demand for it and that you can do it. And then once you become a freelancer and you're actually getting paid for doing something that you're good at and that you like, then you can think about building it into a business. And of course, the main difference between being a freelancer and building a business is that as a freelancer, you're trading your time for money and you're doing the thing and you're getting paid. When you start building a business, what you do is you take that, and it's good to do that first so that you know every single thing that goes into it. And then start building systems and processes, right? So you say, how exactly do I do this as well as I do this? And write it down. Like actually build the system out. And then what you can do is you can hire somebody else to start running those systems and processes, right? And then that's where the business thing comes in, right? So first, I need to be able to understand how to interact with real estate investors to help them to buy and close on real estate. Once I've been able to do that again and again and again and again, and I know how to interact with buyers and I know the types of questions that they're going to have, and I know how to respond to those questions and how to support them every step of the way through the buying process, now I can write that out into a system. And now I can hire somebody else to run that part of my business. So I am not the one that's interacting directly with every single buyer as they come through our process. But I have a staff person who is interacting directly, individually with every single person that comes into our ecosystem, doing the personalized video consultations, helping them to customize everything to their needs, walking them through the whole process, answering all their questions along the way. And the only reason that I'm able to hire someone to do that is because I initially did that. And then I created the system and the process. And then I hired someone and now I manage that person as they carry that out. So those, I think, are the basic steps.
Okay. What's the system or process for finding profitable real estate investments? Can you share your system or process and doing it remotely? Because that's the other thing. Feel free to plug your company here because I know like you said, you match people with these turnkey fully renovated properties with tenants ready to rent out. And I have some questions around how that works too. But just for the independent person who is interested in finding potential real estate deals while they are traveling, which always seems, I know you have all these online listings and all this stuff, but it's just seems like such a hard thing to do remotely when you don't have the feel for outside of your hometown. Even like you might have some extra advantage looking online when the market, but now you're talking about investing in Cleveland or California or whatever, and that's what a lot of your clients do. They're out of state investors buying sight unseen. How do you find how would one go about researching opportunities?
Sure. So the business model that we created at Maverick Investor Group is the name of my real estate brokerage. And the business model that we created in terms of how we deliver value to the clients is, one, helping people to buy in the best real estate markets, regardless of where they live. Two, helping them to buy those properties turnkey, which means they're already cash flowing and performing. So you don't need to be doing the renovations and fixing them up and that kind of stuff. And then three, being able to come to one place to find them, which is Maverick Investor Group and our website. So you don't have to be scouring over the thing and evaluating all these different properties. And to give you the behind the scenes answer to your question in terms of how do we do that? How do we source those? When we were building the remote infrastructure for our company, and this is another tip in terms of how to build a location independent business in a space that's not traditionally virtual, the first thing you want to do in that scenario is to identify what are the geographically restrictive pieces of this business that would normally require someone to be in one place, or that I perceive reasons that I perceive I couldn't do it remotely. What are those geographic restrictive elements? And then list them out. And then say, okay, is there a way that I could build the business so that my company, meaning like me personally, I'm not the one that's fulfilling those elements, right? Those geographically restrictive elements. The only thing that we're doing is the stuff that can be done remotely. So I can do a video consultation with a buyer from anywhere in the world. I can have that call with them. That's going to be the same whether I'm, no matter where I am, right? So, okay, so that's a remote thing. But what's not a remote thing? Well, overseeing construction and renovation on a property in a particular area, managing that property and going out and doing whatever, those types of things. Somebody actually needs to go to the house and fix the thing, right? So those things are not able to be done remotely. Those are geographically restrictive things. And so we say, okay, so let's itemize all of those things out. And how do we build a business model where we, Maverick Investor Group, are doing the things that can be done fully remotely? And then what we're going to do is we're going to build relationships with other companies that are local in these areas that can do those local geographically restrictive things, because that's what they do with their business, right? So with regard to the real estate, what we do is we are able to identify investor advantaged real estate markets, as we call them, right? So we are not helping people to buy rental properties in Manhattan. We're not helping people to buy rental properties in San Francisco, right? We are helping the people to buy rental properties in markets that are much more advantageous for real estate investors, where you can buy much lower priced, rent them for higher, so that you have optimized price to rent ratios, better cash flow margins. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is be able to identify those types of markets. Then we will build a relationship with a separate company that is in those markets locally. They are local real estate market experts, and they, with their own capital, are acquiring properties specifically in the neighborhoods and areas that we consider to be real estate investor sweet spots within that market, right? Areas that are desirable to both homeowners and tenants, where you're going to be able to attract long-term quality tenants, and then ultimately down the road be able to sell that property to a primary homeowner that wants to live in it. Those types of areas, which are also going to be optimized for cash flow, right? So you don't want to buy something that's too high-end luxury thing. It's not going to be able to generate enough cash flow. You don't want to buy something that's too low end, not going to be able to attract quality tenants, have a lot of turnover, a lot of maintenance, a lot of vacancy. You want to buy in those sweet spots. So what we do is we build relationships with companies that on the ground experts in those local areas, experts in specifically this niche. They buy these properties. They oversee the construction and renovation of these properties with their own crews. They then lease out the properties to qualified tenants, go through the whole qualification process, place those tenants. And then once that property is performing, they offer it to our clients as an off-market private buying opportunity through Maverick Investor Group. And that's what we deliver to our clients.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Now, back to the show. I'm just thinking about the amount of people that see a property like that. Like the obvious question here, and this could be with you guys or anybody else. It's like, oh, turnkey property. This is an interesting idea. I mean, if you Google turnkey real estate properties, you can find other competitors that are like your company that offer the same service. You know, that might be something that's ringing people's bells. But like, I think the obvious question here is, well, like if all these people saw a profitable property, why didn't it get scooped up already? Does that mean I'm buying it for a lot more than it's worth?
In terms of, well, you got to remember that everybody along the lines in these particular niches that we're dealing with is able to make a profit for their contribution to the equation. Okay. So that's important, right? And that is not the case in a number of real estate markets, right? As I mentioned, we're not in Los Angeles. That's not a place where we're helping people to buy properties. So the company that is doing the initial acquisition and the initial renovations and all that kind of stuff, they are making a profit. One of the ways that they can make that profit is that they're doing this with an economy of scale. So they are buying their materials in bulk. They are sometimes buying, properties in bulk and so forth, right? So there's an economy of scale there that an individual wouldn't have if they just went in and tried to renovate a house, right? Because they're doing so many of these that they have that economy of scale. And so they're able to do it in a way that makes a profit for them. My company, Maverick Investor Group, as the real estate brokerage, is making a referral fee on these properties, which is like a commission. That is paid by the seller, not by the buyer. And that's a normal part of a real estate transaction, right? And so we're able to make that as a normal real estate brokerage would. And the seller doesn't have to pay advertising and marketing and all those other types of costs because we're able to just bring the buyers, right? So we save them that overhead. They're able to pay us that fee. And that's built into the real estate transaction as it normally is. And the beautiful part about that is that the buyer doesn't have to pay any money to work with us, right? Because,
but hasn't that those laws have changed pretty dramatically recently, haven't they?
Well, there are changing dynamics, but that doesn't change with the way that our model works. So for people that buy through Maverick Investor Group, they don't have to pay money to work with us. They don't have to pay money to access our properties. We work it out with the seller so that our referral fees come from the seller and not the buyer. And the beautiful part about that is that clients can work with us and pay no money. And the only way that we get paid is if we can actually help them to find a property that's the good fit for their needs. And then they close on it. Then we get paid, but not by them. Right. And so that's the thing that I love, to be honest, the most about this business model. And it's one of the ways that I developed this business model. I was like, this is incredible. We can, because I don't really like selling stuff, but if I can just help people for free and not charge them anything. And then also there's a way for me to get paid and monetize that without selling them stuff and charging them money, like that's fantastic. And so, so that's how the business model developed, and that's how it goes. So anybody can just come in. We do free consultations. We work with them, and then they don't have to pay us any money at all. And we're working with a lot of the same clients that we've been working with for a decade, and helping them to continue to build their portfolios over time.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
How many people do you have working at the company with, freelancers? And I don't know if you have employees or...
Yeah, so we are a pretty lean company. We have less than 10 staff. We have, as I mentioned, we have our sort of investment property specialist who works with each of our buyers. We have a contract to close coordinator. We have administrative assistant. I've got an IT, person that runs all that. My business partner I have two business partners. One of them runs the operational side of the business. One of them runs sort of the, financial bookkeeping, is our corporate broker, runs that side. So, less than 10.
Yeah. Okay. Give us your quick hit, like top 3 to 5 markets right now.
So most of them are going to be in the Midwestern United States at this point. So we just recently did a buying opportunity webinar for Cleveland, Ohio. We have recently this year also done one for St. Louis, Missouri. Other markets that we've also have been pretty popular, markets like Indianapolis, Indiana, markets like Kansas City. So these are many of the most popular markets because the price to rent ratios in those markets are really advantageous compared with other areas of the United States. As you know, obviously you've spent time in Colorado and places like that, and the prices are a lot more expensive out there, right? And so there's a lot of people that live in those more expensive markets because they want to ski in Colorado or they want to live in LA, or I lived in LA for many years. It's a great place to live, but you're able to then buy real estate in the markets that make the most sense and that are the most advantageous. And if you live in California, you realize, oh, wow, I could buy 10 single family homes in St. Louis for the price of one in California. And the total amount of rental income is going to be significantly greater. And so you can do this sort of geographical arbitrage thing where you realize, oh, instead of buying in my local area in this more expensive market, I could just deploy that capital to buy real estate in this different market. And all of a sudden my return on investment increases substantially.
Yeah. I think a lot of people listening probably love that idea and are also terrified by the actual doing of it, because now you're going into a place that you don't know. But that's the hole you guys fill. So, I didn't mean to deep dive there, but that was just kind of interesting to me. And I liked your advice that you shared a little bit earlier about, it was just cool to hear the methodology of like, okay, what can we do remotely? Kind of like the practical aspect of listing that out and listing out the things you can't do remotely, and using real estate as the example. Let's say there's a listener right now that wants to buy real estate in Cleveland independently, or they want to do a turnkey thing. They might go with you. Or if they're just like, oh, this is interesting, I'm going to look into this, they could do the same thing, right? Okay, well, how are you going to do your due diligence? Or you want somebody to do a walkthrough? Is that one of your requirements? I guess you're just going to have to hire somebody to do it. So it's this idea of just kind of breaking free mentally of just writing things off and thinking they can't be done with travel.
And I think your point is an important one, Jason, because it's not only, I've been talking about my role in running the business side of things and how did we build it so that we could be remote. But the other side of this that's so advantageous is we built the business model so that the real estate investors, the buyers, our clients can also be remote. And as I mentioned, most of our clients, anybody is welcome to go into the market, by the way, right? So if you're going to buy in Cleveland, you are more than welcome to fly to Cleveland, walk the neighborhood, go inside the house that you're going to buy, shake hands with the property manager, sit down in their office. You are more than welcome to do that by all means. And it's a fun thing to do, write it off as a business expense, because you're going to be making an investment there or whatever. Like maybe that's a cool premise for your travel to go to a city that maybe you haven't been to. By all means, feel free to do that. Most of our clients don't do that. And they buy sight unseen. And the way that they're able to do that, because again, this is that mindset shift, just like how would you build a remote business in a space that's not traditionally virtual? A lot of people start thinking about this and they're like, how would I buy and own a house in a place where I've never been? And the answer is, with regard to the due diligence and stuff, that you simply hire third-party professionals to do every piece of the evaluation, right? So unless you're a professional home inspector yourself, it's not actually going to do a lot of good for you personally to walk through the property. Even if you are buying down the street from where you live, you still want to hire a professional home inspector that works for you, not for the seller, to go in and do a professional home inspection of that house. And you can do that in any place any of the markets that we work in, you can hire a professional home inspector. We can give you a list of people that other clients have used, and it's totally independent. They work for you. They inspect the home. They give you the report, and then you send that report to the seller, and the seller comes up with a punch list that they're going to fix before closing, to knock out any final items that showed up on that inspection report. Then you're going to have an appraisal of your property to make sure that it is worth at least as much as you're paying for it. And if you get a mortgage on your property, the bank is going to require that you get an appraisal, because they're not going to lend money on a property that isn't worth as much as you're paying for it. And so when you have professional appraisers, you have professional inspectors, and then you're going to hire a professional property management company that represents you to manage the property. You're going to have a signed contract with them, and they're going to have their obligations, and they're going to do their thing. And when you put all of these pieces in place, all of a sudden you realize, oh, actually, my personal role in this is actually not that important for me to be geographically present.
Yeah. Can you give me your top 3 to 5 resources right now for researching real estate for the independent investor?
Sure. So we actually have an entire resource section on our website, which is called maverickinvestorgroup.com. And you can just go to the resources section. And there we have a number of resources. For example, there's one that is called Rent Range, which is one that I would recommend that people can use. And Rent Range is a third-party resource website that you can use to determine, number one, the fair market rent currently for any property at the address level in the United States. So, Jason, if you went to this and you were like, oh, this property that I used to live in Pennsylvania, let me see what it would rent for today. You just type in the address that you already know, and then boom, it's going to come up with the current market rent. It's also going to come up with the current vacancy rate in that area. And so that, and then which way rents are trending. Okay. So it's going to give you all this information. And so when you go to buy a property, before you buy the property, you're going to want to verify a number of things. You're going to verify your property taxes. You're going to verify, your insurance payment. So you'll get insurance on the property. And then you want to verify that the tenant is paying the rent that you understand they're paying. So you'll verify the lease, but then you want to go to Rent Range because you want to verify that the rent that the tenant is paying is in fact the market rent. And that if they were to leave, you could reliably release that property for the same amount, right? And so Rent Range, for example, is a great resource for that. But we've got a number of those types of resources that we link to on our website. And then when we do a video consultation with people, we will answer your questions and we can direct you to additional resources. So for example, preferred lenders, you want to say, oh, could I qualify for a mortgage? If so, what would those rates and terms be like today? Well, we can connect you directly with a lender that specializes in loans on these rental properties. And at no cost to you, you can pre-qualify and know exactly what rate and terms you would qualify for, and then plug that into your cash flow analysis with the property.
Are there any AI tools in real estate that you're aware of? Have you been using AI at all?
There are probably a number that will eventually be developed. I am not currently using any AI specific tools.
No. Okay. All right. Any other Rent Range? I guess the rest of the resources, but any one that sticks out that you use to just do research when you're looking at properties like Zillow or one of those? Is there one you prefer over another?
Well, we actually look at a lot of different data on these markets, right? And a lot of it is really...
Well, I'm sorry. I was just thinking more for like the person that's just doing research on their own. You think one's better than the other, or?
Well, I mean, it depends what type of research you're trying to do, right? So different things will give you different pieces of information. So for example, if you want to know, what is the unemployment rate looking like in Cleveland? Is it lower than the average, right? I mean, you can just go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov. They have a monthly unemployment rate. You could be like, oh, this market is lower unemployment than the average. What we do is we go through a lot of that different type of data, right? What is the vacancy rate like? What is the unemployment rate like? What is, these different economic indicators that would be relevant to real estate investors? And we actually put those together and do market specific webinar presentations and say, here's why this market is an investor advantaged real estate market. And then we have those sources, those links, like where did this information come from? Well, if you want to go and look at this yourself, you can see this here. But we pull that from a whole bunch of different sort of primary sources and then put it together as a market analysis. But we have those webinars available on our website. We have market pages for each different market. And then people can go and just watch the replay of the webinar, which goes through all of these different things about the particular market and see it there. And then they can dive deeper into those individually if they want.
Okay. Well, we can transition out of the real estate stuff. I just thought it would be a shame if we didn't pick your brain on some of that stuff. And I hope somebody's listening if they're, I'm a big fan of having the tools in the tool belt. So it's nice to be aware of opportunities. And I know real estate's something that I feel like crosses everybody's mind at some point, whether they want to be a homeowner themselves or, so I just thought it was worth kind of discussing this and letting people know this idea of a turnkey thing. There are these resources out there for you. So and thanks for that. What is the best decision you've made recently that's kind of had let's say, I don't want to say dramatically improved your life, but sometimes you can make these one decisions that, they just move things in a better direction for you. That could be anything, personal, business, whatever. I'm just curious if there's been anything recently for you.
I constantly think about these types of refinements, and I think as we move along in our journey, certain things become more apparent to us. And then some things seem unreachable, but then you think about it, you're like, oh, maybe that is reachable. I'll give you one example that comes to mind is when I became a minimalist traveler. So, and by minimalist traveler, I mean that I travel the world full time. So I have no base. I don't have like a storage unit or things like that. I have no base. And I currently travel the world full time with carry-on luggage only. So all of my physical possessions in the world that I own fit into carry-on luggage. And getting to that point was one of the most liberating things that I have done in my life. And initially, I didn't think it was possible. I'm like, how would that be possible? And so when I started traveling, not only did I have a storage unit full of stuff, but I also was carrying enormous suitcases full of a giant amount of luggage and lugging them up the stairs of my Airbnb and over the cobblestones and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. And so then I started studying minimalist packing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can do it. And now at this point in my journey, carry-on luggage only, which for me means a 22-inch rollerboard suitcase and then a laptop backpack that slides over the handle and fits under the seat on the plane. And my carry-on luggage includes a 3-piece suit. It includes an espresso maker. It includes a professional podcasting studio. It includes a wine aerator, and my list goes on, right? So this is something.
It sounds like George Costanza's desk. That episode where he sleeps under the desk and he's got all the drawers. I mean, that doesn't even sound possible.
It doesn't sound possible, and yet it's possible. And so once I really started studying the art, and I call it stylish minimalism, right? As I mentioned, because a lot of people think, oh, minimalism, I could probably do it, but that would basically mean wearing the same swim trunks and flip-flops and only traveling to beach locations, and then maybe I could do it. But I was like, no, you know what? I like to go skiing also. I like to go to dressy nights out, go to Tokyo and really style it up and go to a really nice place and wear a suit and just do it because, and stuff like that. So I'm like, how could I do this in a way that would allow me to ski? It would allow me to go to dressy nights out, would allow me to go to beaches, all that stuff without checking a bag. And so I've really refined that process, and I have now started doing workshops on it because people, just like what you just said, they're like, that doesn't seem possible. Can you do a training on that, like a workshop? Like, how does that work? And so I've been doing presentations on stylish minimalist packing all over the world. But, for me, ultimately, not only is it like, oh yeah, it's easier because, you're not losing your luggage on the plane. You're not waiting for the luggage to come off the plane for 45 minutes. You're just, I'm in my Airbnb having a glass of wine while people are still waiting for their luggage. There's all those benefits. But for me, the greatest benefit has just been how psychologically liberating it is. I have imposed a physical restriction on myself by doing this, that I cannot participate in materialist consumption, meaning I cannot go shopping because I have no place to put anything that I might buy. Right. And so that for me has been the greatest benefit of this, because when you remove yourself from the materialist consumption that we're all socialized into, all of a sudden now you can put your time, your energy, and your money towards experiences and relationships with people. And that has been the greatest shift for me, I think.
Is that an espresso maker in your pocket, or are you just happy? No, okay. Yeah, it's liberating is the right word for that. I mean, I'm the least amount of minimalist that I've ever been in my life now, having, a family and everything. It's a nice thing when everything you own is just right there. It cuts down on decision fatigue as well. That's for sure. What am I going to wear? Well, I only have like 5 things, so there you go. I can pretty sure I can figure it out. What energizes you? When do you feel the most energized?
When do I feel the most energized? Are you talking like time of day,
just
or like
life,
when I'm doing
in life?
I always still get really excited when I am going to a new place. And some people say, oh, that kind of fades after a while. You've been traveling and stuff, and like the newness of it and the excitement of it is so great at the beginning, and then it fades. For me, I don't know that it's ever faded. Like when I book a trip to a new place that I haven't been before, and I'm about to get off the plane and experience this new place, like for me, that's still filled with magic and wonder, which is why I still do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, after so many years, if you haven't lost your curiosity and excitement for that, then that's great. I mean, if you start to, then I've heard that before too. People are like, well, if I start to kind of just taking all this for granted, then maybe it's time to go home, or to just chill out for a little bit, get off the road. Just a couple more things. Is there anything that you've always wanted that you don't have yet?
Anything that I've always wanted that I don't have yet. I think that it's tough to say, right? Because
a briefcase with 10 million cash, for example.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I think you could always have more in certain areas. You could always make more money, or be more successful in your business, or have more listeners on your podcast, or there's always more things that you could get or achieve at a higher level in certain places. I'm single, I'm not married, I don't have kids, that kind of stuff. And so, maybe when I was younger, I thought, that would be nice, I would like that. But for me, it hasn't happened yet. I haven't met the right person to do that with yet. But I feel like that's also part of the journey. A lot of people my age met not the right person, did that, and are now no longer married, right? Yeah. And stuff. And so I feel like for me, the journey really has been what it is, and I am exactly where I am supposed to be. And so, I'm continuing to try to learn stuff every day. I'm continuing to try to learn new things and open my mind and see more of the world and meet new people, and just kind of approach the world with curiosity and love and interest. And, I love hanging out and meeting new people and having new conversations and all of that kind of stuff. And so I just sort of go forth into the world with those types of good intentions. And I feel like, I do the best I can. I keep moving, and, and it's unfolded the way it has supposed to, and will hopefully continue doing so.
What's your relationship with dating right now?
Man, I think that, to be honest, dating as a digital nomad is incredible. In terms of being able to date locally around the world, has been one of the most remarkably beautiful forms of cultural immersion that I have found. And I will also caveat this by saying that when I started my nomad journey, I was in a committed relationship, and my partner and I, she and I traveled the world together as itinerant nomad couple for 3 years. And then we eventually broke up. And then, as I mentioned, I got in another relationship in Kuala Lumpur and was in that relationship for about a year and stuff. And so now that I've been single for a bit, and I've actually dated, like obviously, I was in those relationships, so I wasn't dating, but now that I've been dating locally, I find that it is one of the most incredible ways to immerse culturally, because you can go out on a date with someone. And I find it's really different because there's not the, romantic pressure about, if there's not chemistry and doesn't go in a romantic direction, then it was sort of a failed date or a waste of time or whatever, that a lot of people, I think, in that dating mindset, they're just like going through to try to find like the person. But when you're doing that in another country and you're out on a date with a local person who is from that area, they've grown up in that area, even if there's no romantic chemistry at all and it doesn't go in that direction, you still had an incredible evening with a really interesting local person. And it was a great cultural immersion. Like, I've gone on dates before. I went on a date in El Salvador, and it wasn't really a romantic thing that was going to go in that direction, but she was super cool, right? We had a great time, and she's like, yo, I'd love for you to come out with my friends. We're going to go out to this thing. And so then there I find myself out with this group of local Salvadorans, and we're out and we're going around the town. We're at like some bowling alley. And then she's like, oh yeah, my other friend owns this Mexican restaurant, and it's like the best Mexican restaurant in San Salvador. Let's roll up. I was like, okay. So then we roll up to this restaurant, which is like, sure enough, popular. There's a line out the door and stuff. And we just roll in like VIP. And then he just brings us, like the owner brings us like free drinks. And then I'm partying with all these Salvadorans. I'm the only El Salvador person there. And it was just an amazing thing that started with one date that wasn't going in a romantic direction and evolved into me getting into local social circles so that my time in San Salvador could be really locally spent and immersive. And so I find that dating in general is an amazing doorway into that.
That's amazing. Yeah, great story. And it's nice to think that, oh yeah, you could go out and just, okay, there's not some kind of romantic connection, but whatever. Let's just, like, we're having a good time. Let's just turn this into just a fun evening. I love that. I will let you go in a minute, but I know you sent me some questions that you're going to ask me on your show. And so I got a little bit of a sneak peek. And one of them was a question I had asked before. And I thought, well, I should probably get your answer for this question too, because you're going to hear mine on your show. The teleportation device questions. You got a teleportation device. You can beam yourself anywhere in the world instantaneously, and you have one day to just fill with whatever you want to do. You wake up tomorrow and you have the device. It's pen sized. You can click the pen and it'll take you anywhere. Can you share what your day is?
All right, so I didn't think about this in advance because I didn't know you were going to ask it to me. But off the top of the dome, what I'm going to do is think about it here now. So,
and because you said top of the dome, I know you're a hip hop fan. So.
Yes, sir. And when you come on my show, I am going to ask you the question that I forgot to ask you on our last interview, which is to name your top 5 hip hop MCs of all time. I don't know if that knowledge is public or if you've announced that publicly yet, but for all of the Zero to Travel listeners that want to hear Jason Moore's relationship with hip hop, his hip hop story, and hear his top 5 MCs, you're going to be able to check that out on the Maverick Show.
I'm sure they're on the edge of their seats right now.
Listen, man, I know you've got some hip hop fans in your audience, and they are going to be curious about this answer, so they will be able to find that on the Maverick Show. But to answer your teleportation question, okay, I'm going to say when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to wake up in Paris, France, and I am going to immediately go out and get some croissants for breakfast. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop around to a couple different bakeries, and I'm going to buy one croissant in one of the best bakeries, and then I'm going to go to a different one, and I'm going to buy a different croissant, and I'm going to compare them, and I'm going to have a shot of espresso with each one. So that's going to be my breakfast journey. Then from there, I am going to teleport out to the Galapagos Islands, and I am going to spend my late morning cruising around on a catamaran, which I had the incredible privilege of doing and was one of the most memorable travel experiences that I've had. And I'm just going to cruise around in the late morning on a catamaran, kick back, do a little bit of snorkeling in the Galapagos, and hang out with these remarkably friendly sea lions that just swim up to you, and giant sea turtles that just want to play with you, and kind of have that be my late morning. Then for lunch, I am going to teleport to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, because I had in Ho Chi Minh City one of the greatest lunch meals of my life, which was a banh mi, which is basically a sandwich on a baguette for people that don't know. And it has this beautifully, beautiful meat that's been, just prepared in this incredible way. And so I had heard about this place. It's like a banh mi shop that is Anthony Bourdain went there, and I had heard about it, and you can get a sandwich for like less than $2, and it's going to blow your mind. And so, I am going to go, I think, to Vietnam for lunch. And then after that, I am probably going to spend the afternoon. I think I'm going to go to, afternoon. This is tough. I think I'm going to go to Tokyo, and I'm going to walk around Tokyo, because Tokyo is just mesmerizing. It is like no city on the planet of Earth. It is just a mesmerizing city to all the senses. It is just a sensory experience like no other. And I feel like that's what I want to do in the afternoon. Japan also has some of the best coffee shops in the world. And if you are into coffee, Japan is an amazing place where they do it with a meticulous level of perfection. And so I would definitely have my afternoon coffee there in Tokyo, and probably some snacks and that sort of stuff. And then for dinner, Japan is some of the best food in the world, but I think I'm going to transport myself to India, because if I had to, it's tough for me to say that any food in the world I love more than Indian food, and having it in India is really a super special place. So I think I might transport myself to Mumbai and go for an amazing Indian dinner in Mumbai. So for my nightcap evening, I'm going to pick Accra in Ghana, and I am going to go to a club called Kona, which I have this incredible memory from. I was there with a very good friend of mine. It was entirely local. I think we're the only non-Ghanaians there. They were playing the most incredible Afro beats. We were there till 2:30 in the morning, and we were like, all right, I think it's maybe time to leave now. And we start going to walk towards the exit of the club, and all of a sudden they switch DJs, because let me tell you, in Ghana, the party does not stop at 2:30 in the morning. That's just the new DJ coming in to start a set. And so this new DJ comes on and starts playing hip hop. So after a whole evening of amazing Afro beats, now they're playing hip hop, which, as you know, speaks to my heart and soul. So I was like, we can't leave now. So we turn around and we go back in, and we stay there till, 5 in the morning or something like that. But it was an amazing, amazing night. And so I'm going to put Accra, Ghana as my final stop on the teleportation tour to close out the night.
Nice. Great day. When are they going to invent this teleportation thing? I don't know. Okay, well, thanks, man. Thanks for your time. I want to give you the opportunity now to share whatever you'd like here in terms of where people can find you and stuff like that. And then we're going to sign off and record your show with me next. So I look forward to that.
So wherever you are listening to this podcast, you can just type in The Maverick Show with Matt Bowles and subscribe to The Maverick Show. Would love to have your feedback on there. If you want to shoot me a personal DM on Instagram, my personal handle is at Matt Bowles Maverick, MattBowlesMaverick. That's my personal handle on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. Let me know you heard me on Zero to Travel Travel. I love interacting with listeners. And so that would be super fun. And then I want to make a totally free offer to all of the Zero to Travel listeners. I have created a special page, which is themaverickshow.com/0to-travel. And when you go there, there's just going to be a bunch of free stuff relating to themes that we talked about in the show today. So for example, I have there for you a free video training on minimalist packing, including a luggage audit of everything that I pack and tips and principles on how you can do it and customize it for yourself as well. I have the 7 keys to building a location independent business, even in a space that's not traditionally virtual, if you're interested in that. I also have content on real estate investing for digital nomads or anyone really that wants to buy out-of-state real estate, as well as ways for you to contact us if you're interested in the real estate stuff. So you can get all of that for free at themaverickshow.com/0to-travel.
Right on. Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure. And look forward to doing the next one with you.
Absolutely. Be sure to check out Jason's interview on the Maverick Show, because I'm going to pull some very interesting stuff out of him that he has never shared before, including his top 5 hip hop MCs of all time.
I'm scared. All right. Thanks again. Take care. There you have it. Thank you again to Matt Bowles for stopping by the show. Of course, you can check out Matt's interview with me over on his show, The Maverick Show, and we'll link up to that in the show notes. As I mentioned at the top, I wanted to share the number one hidden perk of nomad life. Having been a nomad for 10 years, I have a flood of memories, actually a bit over 10 years. Whenever I talk about it, I think about so many things. It's like the movie montage. You know this as a traveler. Somebody could just mention whatever, some city you've been in, Amsterdam or whatever, and all of a sudden, it's not like you just think linearly. You just see like a barrage of images and maybe good times or bad times, or that thing got stolen from me, or, almost is overwhelming. And when I think about my decade plus as a nomad, that's kind of what I experience in my head. It's just, there's so much to it, to the experience. And of course I have the travel memories like hiking to Machu Picchu or some of the big highlights like that. I have the memories from the small towns and the random locals that, took us in for meals or showed us around, or, all of that great stuff. But I would say from a lifestyle perspective, the number one hidden perk of nomad life isn't the travel piece. Well, kind of. But it's the ability to spend extended periods of time with family and friends, which for me often involved traveling, right? I go visit friends, that I met randomly that lived in Portland, or I'd go visit my buddy Jason in Colorado before I lived there, or I'd go visit, so-and-so here and there. So of course there's a travel element involved. But being able to take a month and just be with your parents, or go back and surprise my dad when he was having surgery for his cancer, or surprise my mom when she was in the hospital, things like that, or just show up at the door and say, I'm here. I mean, we don't get our time back. We all know that. And I think that is something that maybe isn't talked about a lot in the nomad space. If you're looking at the sexy images on Instagram and all that stuff, it's like, here I am at the beach and the laptop and all that. But the ability to extend your stay and spend quality time with friends and family, can't beat it. And, you can have that without working for yourself. I did that when I was doing this contract work and traveling around, doing these travel jobs. If I had these longer breaks, I could break it up and use some of it to travel overseas and other parts of it to spend time with friends and family. So anyway, you already know how valuable that time is. And I just thought it would be another thing to throw out as we close this out. If you're working towards some kind of lifestyle shift that will allow you to have the flexibility and freedom to travel more, like Matt does, like we discussed a bit today. Perhaps that's another thing to keep in mind, as you know it's there, but it can be highly motivating too, to understand that that's such a big perk, and to me, one of the biggest hidden perks of nomad life. Okay, let me close this out with a quote from the old quote drawer. This one You know what? I can't even pronounce this person's name, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to pull another quote out of the drawer. This one's from Shirdi Sai Baba, who said, "You must be a lotus unfolding its petals when the sun rises in the sky, unaffected by the slush where it is born or even the water which sustains it." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.